All right, it is 6 o'clock. Let's get rolling on this one today. Welcome, everybody. This meeting is now called to order. So this is the board meeting of the CRTPO, June 21st, 2023. So the first order of business is adoption of tonight's agenda. Can I have a motion, please?
So move.
Second, somebody? Moving second. All in favor? Thank you. Opposed? Nobody? Aye.
No, I'm sorry, I'm talking.
Oh. All right, no problem. All right, next item is the public comment period. We have one person signed up to join us tonight and speak, Samuel Grunman. So Samuel, if you would go up to the podium up there, get yourself real nestled in real close to the microphone so everybody can hear you. You've got 3 minutes and my shotgun partner over here will let you know when that ends.
Thank you. So I sent this email to CRTPO and also to Gaston, Cleveland, Lincoln, MPO. This concerns both of you guys. So I live in Charlotte. I do drive I-85 into Gastonia regularly. As a regional transportation planning organization, I implore you to use your voice with the NCDOT and US DOT to champion more region-wide transportation plans. And I mean large region, as in what is good for the great state of North Carolina and southeastern United States. When I-85 is widened through Gastonia, all of the bridges are going to need to be rebuilt. This is a huge tax burden to be put on all the peoples across North Carolina. Widening I-85 needs to follow the same plan used to widen I-77, tolled express lanes. Have the drivers using the lanes pay for the new lanes. Next, since most of the traffic on I-85 through Gastonia is actually not coming or going from Gastonia, we should be looking at how to minimize harmful impacts on the community of Gastonia. I'm talking about the extra land needed for more lanes, the removal of trees and grass, the added pollution and noise. I'm talking about trains. We need to move more people, not more cars. Trains take up less land and are less impacted by bad drivers and bad traffic. Gastonia needs good train connections to Charlotte to get people from home to work without wasting time sitting in traffic. And we need to think regionally beyond just Gastonia and Charlotte, but to North Carolina and the whole Southeast. I-85 is just an isolated highway connecting Gastonia and Charlotte, but not just an isolated highway connecting Gastonia and Charlotte, but a long corridor running from Atlanta to Richmond. So we should be starting now using your budgets and setting your priorities. We need to start now on improving for the Southeast high-speed rail. I'm not saying you need to build a 200-mile-per-hour train at this time, but you can get this piece of the corridor ready by investing in rail projects to begin moving people along the corridor to the hub in Charlotte to meet their trains at DC or Atlanta or onto their plane to the rest of the world. Thank you for your time.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Grunman. Thank you for joining us tonight and coming up and speaking to us. Appreciate that. It's nice to have some engagement. All right, we're going to move down to Mr. Cook, riding shotgun tonight with me. He's going to ask you about the ethics awareness and conflict of interest.
In accordance with the State Government Ethics Act, it is the duty of every member to avoid conflicts of interest. Does any board member have any known conflict of interest with respect to any matters coming before the board today? If so, please identify the conflict and refrain from any participation in the particular matter involved.
Any conflicts noted? Nobody's raising their hands, so I guess we're okay.
Okay.
All right, appreciate that. All right, we'll drop down to the consent agenda. So if somebody make a motion on that, please. Second.
Second.
All right, motion's up. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. All right, we're going to move over to Mr. Travis. He's going to talk to us about the tips. So floor is yours, sir.
Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. Travis Johnson with the CRTPO. I'm covering the next 2 items for us tonight. We're going to go over the draft 2024-2033 Transportation Improvement Plan, and then we'll go over the draft prioritization list. So tonight, the action I'm requesting of you is to first make an air quality determination, second, approve amendments to the 2050 NTP, and then 3, adopt the 2024-2033 Transportation Improvement Program, referred to as the TIP. I want to go over public involvement update, the fiscal plan, air quality conformity, and then review the schedule we followed to get us to this point, and then answer any questions you have before then making the request. So we held a public comment period from March 16th to April 14th, and then we held a supplementary 14-day public comment period from May 4th to May 17th. During these public comment periods, we made media releases to Iredell, Mecklenburg, and Union County news outlets. We did social media promotion. We had it available on our website, and put the information out there as much as possible. We also put our list of projects and maps on the CRTPO website and under the project page to raise awareness of the plan and what the projects could be. During those public comment periods, we received 4 comments. Overall, there was just concerns about the NCDOT project schedule delays and the need for more active mobility projects in our region. After reviewing that feedback, the staff determined that staff determines that the comments received did not require a change to the draft TIP or the related documents. As part of the approval process, we also have to establish that the funding is available for the first 4 years of the STIP and TIP. So for the years 2024 through 2027, NCDOT has determined that the funding sources and revenue estimates cover the project costs in those fiscal years, and that will meet the federal requirements for a fiscally constrained TIP. In addition to that, we also must ensure that the emissions expected from the 2024-2027 TIP projects and the 2050 NTP amendments fall in conformity with the 8-hour ozone standards, and also that they conform to the purpose of the state implementation plan and meet FHA-WA requirements. So again, the original list that was, or the original draft list was released on August 4th, 2022. We then had opportunities to do projects swaps, which was unique to this prioritization cycle. Then NCDOT held a public comment period. We held additional public comment periods. We released the draft list of NTP project amendments, which then got us to the supplementary public comment period. We brought this item to this board in as a TIP information item in May, and now we're coming back to you for action. So again, the request is to make an air quality conformity determination, then approve the amendments to the 2050 NTP, and then adopt the 2024-2033 TIP, which would bring to the end the prioritization 6.0 process. So with that, I'll pause for any questions.
All right, any questions for our presenter tonight? Rob?
Thank you. Can you give us a general overview of the comments that you received?
Yeah, so as I stated earlier, the general comments were just concerns about the project schedule and the desire for more active transportation projects as part of the list. Again, we do not have the ability to manipulate those schedules, and also the way in which the funding process is set up per SDI legislation limits the number of active transportation projects on the list. But in addition to that, there are a lot of active transportation components to the highway project list. So we're doing the best we can to keep those projects on the forefront and making sure that those concerns are heard.
All right, any other comments, thoughts, questions around the table? All right, this can be done in one motion for all of it, so I'll look for a motion on this one.
So moved.
All right, motion's up, second. All right, very good. All in favor? Opposed? 0. Great, thank you. You're up again, aren't you?
Yes, I am up again. So again, just to kind of give a little context, so that was the end of the prioritization 6.0 cycle. So as that process is coming to an end, we are starting the prioritization 7.0 process. So again, this is going to be a multi-year process. We're on the first part of that. So tonight I just want to review with you the status of the project list, and then ask to open a public comment period to receive feedback on those proposed lists. So we're going to go over the action requested, go over P7 updates, and then answer any questions you might have for the prioritization 7.0 process. And so again, the action is going to be requested at the end of this presentation is to open a 30-day public comment period on the draft P7.0 project list. The 30-day public comment period from June 22nd to July 22nd. We'll do a media release to news outlets in Iredell, Mecklenburg, and Union counties. We'll use social media to promote these project lists and to encourage participation from the public. And we'll also have we also currently have a P70 project website, which incorporates project lists, project maps, and an interactive project map so people can look at what the projects are being proposed, what the descriptions are, and then where the project would start and end. So again, the P7.0 project list starts with the final 5 years of the P6.0, the 2024-2033 STIP projects. Those get moved into the P7.0 database as carryover projects. Then siblings of projects in the STIP where planning was currently underway also gets moved as a carryover project, and that goes into the P7.0 database and does not count towards our overall maximum number of project submittals, which is 49 per mode. Projects then that are in the holding tank can be elected to be resubmitted again. However, these projects start counting towards our overall total number of projects we may submit. And then new project entries can then be submitted after the carryover projects and holding tank projects are agreed to be resubmitted with the available project slots that are still available. It's important to note that for the highway mode, the typical way in which projects are selected is projects within the 2050 MTP with the earliest horizon year and the highest score are selected first, and then the list is moved down through that process. So the earlier horizon year, higher project score gets added until we max out of the overall 49 projects that are available. So in the current project list, you will see out of the 49 project, or you was sent to you prior to the meeting, out of the 49 potential projects slots that were available, we are using all 49 highway. We'd be using 26 bicycle and pedestrian, 2 transit projects, 8 rail projects, and 22 aviation projects. I also wanted to bring up that we have received additional feedback from transit agencies for a potential additional transit project. And then we've been also working with NCDOT's rail division. They have presented some potential additional projects, but we have to work through coordination with our partners at neighboring MPOs and with our jurisdictions to find out if that fits into the P7.0 list or if that should be a part of the next prioritization cycle. The P70 project lists were reviewed during the May 31st transportation staff meeting. They were also reviewed at the June 1st TCC meeting. At the meeting, also member jurisdictions were asked to review these project lists, review them for accuracy, and then notify the CRTPO if any projects are no longer needed. So again, it's important to review them for accuracy for what is in the description to make sure that the projects we submit are as accurate as possible to ensure that the scores we receive are the best we could. So again, these go through multiple agencies and multiple processes. So, you know, there's a chance a description might have been updated or changed, and we have to make sure that that act is still accurate to what should be in the local or should be needed for these local agencies. And then also making sure that the project is still desired. It wasn't funded through another means. It wasn't then prioritized. Maybe there's a local plan that changed something. So we want to make sure that the information is as accurate as possible. Especially if it's no longer needed and if it's in a carryover or holding tank list, that's important because then that provides us an opportunity to utilize another submittal slot for prioritization. So again, we're using all 49 project submittals for the highway category. We also have 35 carryover legacy roadway projects, and those do not count towards our overall 49 total submittals. So we're actually getting 49 plus 35. For each carryover project that we remove from this list, we should be receiving an additional project submittal beyond the 49 as a way to encourage us to, you know, make sure we're removing the projects if they aren't necessary, so that way we aren't necessarily not restricted. It doesn't hurt us if we remove a project, so we still aren't losing that total submittal. The 2 projects that were removed, one Idlewild Road Part A and then Idlewild Road Part B, one portion of the project was removed because it is in the draft STIP. And so it did not need to be in that list. And the other project that was removed was based upon feedback from the jurisdiction. And we'll go into a little more explanation about how that might change things for the submittal projects you've seen. In addition to that, project submittals, we have holding tank projects. We had 45 unfunded P 6.0 projects that were in the holding tank that were going to be resubmitted. Again, one project was removed, not from as a project, but it was removed because it was in the updated draft STIP. So it did not need to be in this list. And then we moved on to the new project list, which incorporated one additional project for NC 51 because that project had been split by NCDOT. So that took the first submittal slot. However, typically when projects are removed, we do receive the additional carryover slot. However, since the agenda had been distributed, we received additional information from NCDOT that stated that projects that were removed from the list due to clerical error, essentially a project that was already in the STIP that should not have been in this list, we do not gain an additional submittal slot for. So the list that you have shows 6 projects, new projects that are potential. However, we have 2 less project slots because that assumed we received 3 when actually we only had received 1 because 2 projects had been removed because of that they were already in the draft STIP. So the bottom 2 projects on the new project submittal list would then be removed from the project submittal or the P7 potential project list unless additional projects are removed to re-provide them with additional areas. So that was a clarification that we provided. We did not update the list because you had already received the list, but prior to announcing the public engagement tomorrow, we would have the list updated and have those 2 projects removed to start the public comment period. In addition to that, we have 26 projects for bicycle and pedestrian. This was again selected by the bicycle and pedestrian work group, or they recommended those projects. We have 2 projects, 2 public transportation projects, and we've been coordinating with the agencies to make sure that any projects that they would seem fit to get through the prioritization process, knowing that non-highway only compete for 10% of the overall funding available. I'm working with NCDOT's rail division. Currently we have 8 projects that are identified. We have additional projects that they have submitted. We're still working through the vetting process and working with the neighboring NPOs because a lot of them are much bigger projects. So we're trying to figure out how they would fit into this, finding out what the public engagement was, and then we will have them. We're requesting that they come and present next month, or if we can get a summary of what could potentially be added as part of the public comment period prior to them being submitted as in August, and when this project would come back to you for a decision. We were working with the airports and we received 10 projects from Charlotte Douglas International Airport, 4 from Statesville Regional Airport, and 8 projects from the Charlotte Monroe Airport. So again, we are in the May 2023, September 2023 process right now of where we are working together to identify potential projects that could fit into these modes. After the projects are all submitted, they would go for a review and a scoring process. That would give us time after that for the May 20 into July timeframe to apply local input points, and that essentially would help certain projects to elevate specifically for the regional and then for the division tier projects. Then the final scores will be programmed in September to November 2024, and then we would come back in December to discuss the draft 2026-2035 STIP. So again, that thing we just approved a minute ago, that is the end of what this process is the start of. So in 2024, we'll be doing that same process again, amending the NTP at that time and working through the air quality determination as part of that process. So again, in June, we're sharing the draft lists and then asking for a public comment period to be opened. If approved, the public comment period would be from June to July 2020, I can't speak today, June 22nd to July 22nd. We'd collect all the feedback, we'd bring that information back to this board, and then we'd hopefully receive a approval in August, and then we would have till the end of September to submit all of these projects into the spot database, which would then start the ranking process. So again, the request is going to be to open a 30-day public comment period from June 22nd to July 22nd on the draft prioritization 7.0 project lists. And with that, do we have any questions?
All right, Craig, you had your hand up, I saw, so if you would.
Well, the only question that occurs to me is, how are we gonna pay for all this stuff? When does the price tag come into play?
So
It doesn't.
I'm sorry, did I interrupt you?
No,
Oh, okay.
when does it, or does the price tag come into play?
Yeah, so cost is a factor in all the projects that are submitted. So right now, the project lists are submitted with estimated costs that through the prioritization or through the ranking process, scores will be evaluated. And just as we approved with the other project list, as we were stating, that the first 4 years have to be estimated within the revenue stream at that point. So the cost is considered as part of this prioritization or the prioritization process, and it affects some of the scores of the projects. And this project list will need to be fiscally constrained when it is approved as a STIP. And so that project list will have to have either existing funds or estimated funds to approve. So this is considered as part of that process. We will receive an estimated revenue amount from NCDOT, and then that will be what we use to then help us prioritize these projects.
At any time, do we expose to the public the projected costs and
Yeah.
the availability of cash?
Yeah, so once we receive that information, as of right now, I've not received it. So we receive that information, we share that online as soon as it's available. It's just, we don't have that currently. And so also all the projects where we have an estimated cost where we have that available. And as part of the ranking process, there are some larger projects, like some of the rail projects, to where that cost estimate will be created for us by the rail division as part of the review process. And so once we receive that, the scores back, we'll receive the costs that are finalizing the costs and all that as well. And so again, these are all estimates, but the cost is a constant concern as we move through this.
Well, and my last question on this is, when we expose these costs and revenue estimates, do we say that so much from the feds, so much from the state, so much from the local jurisdictions? Do we break it down so that the taxpayer has an idea of the breadth and depth of these projects?
Right.
Do we break it down like that, or do we just put out a total number?
So for a majority of these projects, it is covered by it would be mostly, or it would be completely covered through the STIP process. It gets more into a minutia for what portions of the project are covered, which would work out through like the more complete planning documents as part of that phase. For the bicycle and pedestrian projects, those require a 20% match, and jurisdictions that have already been made aware of that, and as a typical process of which we require. I believe all the rest of the projects would be completely covered through the allocation of these funds. And so I don't believe it, depending upon the type of enhancements that are being recommended and what goes into the final design, might affect what is being asked of the communities. But most of the projects then would be completely covered, like all the highway projects would be mostly then covered through that process. And then it depends on if they ask for addition to, and then that information is worked out between NCDOT and the jurisdiction. But most of that would be covered as part of that process. But we are constantly talking about it. We educate what it means for those funds to be used, and we try to give the best information we can when we have it.
Mr. Cook would like to put on his other hat for the moment here.
Well, I just wanted to mention that this process has gotten more challenging each time around, each time we go through it over the years. And this time around, I would say from my observation, exponentially so. And so if things seem challenging on what Travis was presenting today on the screen and what he commented on, that you're not wrong on that. And I did want to just say thank you to Travis for hanging in there with this, because he's really been leading it for staff. He's been helped by Brian and Curtis and Darrell and Neil as well, but it's really been on Travis's shoulders to get us through this process. And I know it's not been easy, but we're getting through it. And so thanks to you, Travis, for sticking with us and not running out of the building screaming, because you would be justified in doing so.
It's a lot of work. And I think Craig was just looking for a breakdown as much as he can, so can inform some of the taxpayers, you're going to pay $3, you're going to pay $2, you're going to pay 50 cents, whatever that is. I think that's what you're looking for.
That's correct. And part of the reason is all of us get suggestions for projects all the time. And then when we say to them, well, how much are you willing to put into this? Well, if I don't have to put any money into it, I want all these extra fluffy things But if I got to put money in it, well, maybe I really don't. Now we get into that part of what do you want and what do you need? And at some point, the price tag adds that little realism of, hey, this is not a bottomless pit of money. We just don't dream up projects because, oh, that would be nice. We got to pay for them. And that means the taxpayers got to pay for them somewhere along the line. That impacts municipal budgets, county budgets, state budgets. And I just want to make sure that the public, as well as each one of our members here, understand that's a lot of money. This is a lot of money.
And to your point, one of my conversations last night in one of my meetings was talking about those same things, is that when, to your point about when people want something, it's great if they don't have to kick in any money. And a lot of these municipalities aren't prepared to financially kick in, so they lose out on that. And so I think that again is all of us electeds, it's incumbent upon us to then inform our constituents. If you want this project, we're going to have to budget for the match. It isn't always 100%. So we need to do a better job on that. But if we can track that a little bit, Travis, as we go to, kind of see if we can help all the municipal electeds in here to understand that if there's something that they want, whether it's at the staff level or not, make sure they understand there's a kick in.
Right.
Yeah.
And so right now, I think we're expecting the cost estimate for this prioritization cycle soon. I think, with the very unique prioritization 6.0 process that we just went through, and the swaps and the adjustments, and there was the funds at the end, I think there's just been a little bit of a delay in getting us these cost estimates, because that will be very important for us as we get ready. Because again, just because it's in the P7 list does not mean it gets funded, because to your point, dollars matter and how much is available matters. And that will help dictate what projects from this list move forward is again, based upon the estimated revenue we are anticipating, and then the estimated costs for each of these projects, which will be fine-tuned through this process. But we don't know what that number is. Once we know that number, we will share it with everyone. And then that will help us. The projects that make it through this process, just like the last list, which was approved, again, there's that fiscal constraint as part of it. So there must be the estimated or revenue. So like, it's not just whatever you want, it's whatever you want within this dollar amount,
Thank you.
All right, very good. Any other comments from around the table? Hands raised. Craig, thanks for that. I think, we'll take a good look at that as well. So there's this request is to open the 30-day public comment period on this. So can I have a motion, please? Second?
Second.
All right. Motion is up. All in favor?
Aye.
Seems like all the way around. Any opposed? Negative. All right, very good. Got that? Very good. All right, Mr. Andrew, your shot up there. Welcome to the podium once again. Talking about the discretionary program supplemental funding recommendations. Get up close to that microphone so we can all hear you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I hope everybody's having a great night. I'm glad everybody can make it here in the deluge we've had. So it's nice to see everybody here tonight. We are asking for an action tonight to approve approximately $3.5 million of unobligated future STBDGA funds. These are on 2 existing discretionary projects that have experienced shortfalls, and we also need to amend the TIP to reflect these changes. I did want a quick reminder, we do have 2 chances each year to have discretionary funding. The first is the spring call, which we're hearing tonight. This ran from March 1st to April 28th. This is solely for supplemental funding on existing projects. The second one is the fall call, which is open to new and existing projects. This will open in mid-August. So we do have 2 projects in front of you tonight, both in the construction phase. So this means they're rounding third and heading home, which is a good thing in the transportation world. The first one is from the town of Waxhaw. It's the downtown Waxhaw pedestrian and bicycle facility enhancement project. They are requesting approximately $392,000. This project does have a 50% local match, so the town is also chipping in the same amount, the $392,000. The second one is from the town of Huntersville. This is the NC 115 widening project. It runs from Mount Holly Huntersville Road to just south of Rama Church Road. Huntersville is requesting about $3.1 million. This project has a 33% local match, so the town would be contributing about 1.5 million with this project. I did also want to add that the last 3 years in this spring call that we have approved somewhere between 3 and 4 million each year. So this amount does fall in line with what we've done the last 3 years. Also, I will say that the discretionary policy does have a shortfall matrix. It measures things such as the budget increase, the amount of phases completed, the match, and then previous times that the project may have come back to this board for additional funding. With this matrix, basically the higher the score, the worse it is. Both of these projects scored a 4. The matrix recommends anything below a 9 to be recommended that this board approve. And the last thing I'll say is the TCC did recommend the funding be approved as presented tonight. So with that, I will open it up for any questions that the board may have.
Any questions to our presenter? I think we've been down this road earlier on. Brad?
Yeah, Andrew, just remind me, where did the supplemental funds originate from? Was this the bus electrification funds that were freed up? I can't remember.
There's a bunch of different pots that we get every year. These ones are coming directly out of the STBGDA funds. We do anticipate probably to have some more of those carbon reduction funds, which will probably be used when we get closer to that fall call.
Thank you.
But we get this discretionary funding every year, and they're meant for local jurisdictions to administer the projects. We have to apply, the local jurisdictions have to apply and provide a match and have their.
Yeah, I understand that part. These feel like they're extra projects that were able to be funded. Is that what you're saying?
These are projects that have already been funded. They've just ran into shortfalls. They're just coming out of the pot that we get every year.
Thank you.
All right, very good. Any other thoughts, questions for our presenter? All right, Mr. Andrews looking for an approval. So can I get a motion up, please?
Second.
Second. All right, all in favor? All around, any opposed? Great, you got that. Very good. Andrew, thank you very much.
You.
All right, we have a visitor, Mr. Bjorn Hansen from Union County Transportation. Bjorn, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board, here to present for information a update to our comprehensive transportation plan for all of CRTPO. This affects Union County, Waxhaw, as well as Mineral Springs. This segment of the Waxhaw Parkway is on the northeast part of downtown Waxhaw. It's been a priority of the town and the county for several STIP cycles, but it has not been funded. NCDOT initiated a feasibility study within the last couple of years to study it, to update the cost estimate, as well as determine the alignment, to see if it might be able to be tweaked to make it more feasible when it actually does get constructed or funded for construction in the future. So what we received earlier this year is the area in gray, which was the corridor. But for purposes of the CTP, we can't approve a corridor. It has to be a line. So we just drew the line in the center of the corridor. And you'll see this hook on the bottom because it crosses over 75 and then comes back into at grade to connect in. And it includes a cost estimate, $72 million. That's in today's dollars. And the alignment will change a little bit when it actually does get funded for construction. To put things in perspective, the current alignment is what's shown in orange. This was adopted as part of the CTP 6 or 7 years ago. And you can see that Waxhaw is in the yellowish gold color, Mineral Springs is in the pinkish color, and then the white area is unincorporated Union County. So it affects all of us. So we're working together. All 3 jurisdictions have passed resolutions to ask for this process to begin, and it only begins when CRTPO approves it. So tonight we're asking for feedback or any kind of tweaks you might see in our outreach process, so that next month we can hit the ground running and get approval and actually conduct the outreach period. Now, this has ripple through effects because the vision for the Waxhaw Parkway is to connect in with Providence Road south of Waxhaw as well. And so this connects on the south side, but with the alignment shifting to the west, we had to propose an amendment to the southern leg, which would connect back in. So that's what you see here in the lime green color. That's a second amendment as a part of this process. And just to be completely transparent, this has been a 30-year mess. It's really affected a lot of property owners as it relates to development as it occurs. They have to reflect the plans and then the plans change. So we're going to be contacting a lot of property owners as a part of this process to let them know both about the new alignment and the current alignment. And hopefully this will have some durability when this decision is made. So process is, we started in May and passed the resolutions and then came to a Wednesday staff meeting where we presented for information, came here in the month of June for information. Any feedback, we can incorporate it, but then in July, we're ready. We're going to tee up our communications plans, our web pages for information. And then in July, the TCC will make a recommendation and the board will hopefully approve it. And then we'll immediately go out for public comment for a month from late July to late August. We will then look at all the comments and provided that they are positive change to make this tweak, we'll be coming back for action. Regardless, we'll be providing an update. It may say that our decision is to remain with the current alignment, but regardless, that will be the public comment period. And then in September, if things are positive regarding the change, we will have resolutions for the changes and then present in October for information, then November for action. This will still allow us to meet the spot 7 cycle because this project is one of the, I forget if it's a carryover, but it's in the process and we hope to be able to resubmit it in some form. So we have obviously representatives from Waxhaw here, Union County. I'm not sure if Mineral Springs is present, but we're happy to take any feedback on how we could improve our process when we take this out to the public, hopefully in late July.
1992 was the start of this. So it's been a long process. I think it's probably time. 1992. Any questions for Mr. Hanson? All the way around. All right, this is informational. Thank you
Sure.
very
Otherwise,
much.
I'll see you in
Appreciate
July.
you coming up to present that to us. We'll try to keep moving it forward. All right, next item up, Mr. Kendall. Congestion management process. CMP update.
Good evening, everyone. I am Kendall Clanton with CRTPO, and today I'll be talking about the congestion management process, also known as the CMP. First, I'll give some brief background information on the CMP, then recent developments, next steps, and lastly, I'll open the floor to any comments or questions. MPOs with a population over 200,000 are regulated by the Federal Highway Administration to have a congestion management process. A CMP is an accepted approach to managing congestion and provides recommendations for the effective management of congested facilities. CRTPO updates its CMP every 4 to 5 years to run concurrent with this MTP cycle. Goals and objectives. Since the first iteration of the CMP, the singular goal has been to manage congestion, and the objectives have been to develop management measures, reduce congestion duration, have a wide range of strategies to consider, and lastly, improve multiple facets of the transportation network. The diagram at the bottom shows how the CMP works in relation to our other major plans, such as the CTP, MTP, and TIP. Here is our task force members list for this iteration of the CMP. I'd like to thank everyone involved with this process. I see Scott Miller here and Neil Paniker. At this time, we anticipate having a task force for approximately 12 months. Here are the duties and responsibilities for our task force members. First, re-examine our current goal and performance measures and to potentially identify new ones. Next, review our current list of management strategies and give feedback on our congested corridors. Lastly, verify that the CMP aligns with CRTPO's vision, goal, and objectives. Here are the deliverables for our task force. First, confirm the CMP goals and performance measures. Second, a finalized list of management strategies. And lastly, a finalized list of congested corridors. Recent developments. Over the past few months, CRTPO staff has been meeting internally to review its past CMP to look for areas of improvement. We have developed a 6-month timeline and have reviewed CMPs from peer MPOs and comparable size such as Greensboro and Nashville to generate ideas for this iteration. Here is our 6-month timeline. It begins in mid-May and ends in mid-November. It shows the June TCC presentation that we gave a few weeks ago. Thanks, Bob. And lastly, 3 task force meetings that we plan on having this year. Next steps. We have our first task force meeting scheduled for July 13th. We will continue to review peer MPO CMPs to generate additional information for ours. And lastly, we will be meeting with our task force members to look for areas of improvement from our last CMP. Any comments or questions?
All right, comments or questions for our presenter? All right, nice and quiet tonight. Kendall, congratulations.
Thank you, guys.
All right. All right, Mr. Cook, you're up.
Flip of the wheel. Just wanted to talk a little bit about some upcoming issues, but actually, oops, thank you. But actually to go back and just to let everyone know, of course, we had our joint meeting with the Gaston Cleveland Lincoln MPO back in May 11th at the airport. The main focus of that meeting was funding. We had a work session that was probably the highlight of the event, where everyone broke into small groups and generated ideas for some next best steps between the 2 organizations. And so in terms of some of those next steps for both organizations, one would be to ID funding topics. Another would be to share information about funding mechanisms and also to invite NCDOT to future meetings. And then in terms of some joint next steps between the 2 MPOs, one would be for the MPO chairs to meet to discuss a possible legislative agenda. We do need to work on getting that scheduled and to continue the funding discussions at another joint meeting to be held next year. So just a couple of other items to mention about this. There with attendance, we had maybe some challenges with attendance. There were some folks who RSVP'd who did not show. Some of it may have been related to the fact that we held this during budget season. Normally, we try to hold this earlier in the year, and it was in May, of course. So we'll be looking at doing this earlier. And then the location was a little challenging. It was good from a geographic standpoint. It was easy for everyone to get there at the airport. However, security challenges made for some logistical nightmares for staff and even for some of the attendees as well. So just wanted to go over that and remind folks about the overall success of that event. And we'll be working on next year's event, but also following up on some of those action items as well. Now, getting into some of the upcoming issues. Next week, we do have an MOU subcommittee meeting on Thursday, June 29th. We'll be reviewing MOUs from other comparable MPOs, considering alternatives to the weighted vote and how it applies in a variety of circumstances. And we'll also be discussing the county-based transit agency representation on the board as well. And then next week, or earlier in the week on June 27th, we will be undergoing our every 4-year certification review. This will be on Tuesday, June 27th, and this is a requirement for MPOs of our size. Kendall mentioned about our status as a transportation management area because we exceed 200,000 in population, so we are required to go through this process. We last went through it in 2020. You're doing the math, that is not every 4 years this time around, but FHWA is revamping its process. And so that has changed the schedule a little bit. So a lot of the MPOs in North Carolina are experiencing one a bit early, but we'll get back on the right track after that. Board members will have an opportunity to talk to FHWA representatives, Loretta Barron and Bill Marley. We'll have an item on the agenda for that, but you can talk to Loretta. I think this was mentioned at the last meeting at any time. It doesn't have to be during that scheduled period. We did finally get an agenda last week. We'll start at 10:30 on the 27th. Some MPO comments and welcomes from FHWA. We'll get into the individual topics at around 11:30, and they will cover transit planning, congestion management process, environmental justice and public involvement. We'll get into about an hour-long session on environmental planning, and the items that FHWA has identified are stormwater management, resiliency planning, climate change, and greenhouse gas emissions. And then we'll get into the metropolitan transportation plan. We'll talk about complete streets, housing and transportation planning, tourism planning, and planning and environmental linkages. So be a full day. This is a lot better than they were. They used to be 3 full-day sessions. Now this is just one day, and it starts at 10:30. So it's not as onerous as it was in the past. But that'll be this coming Tuesday, the 27th, starting at 10:30 here in the Government Center. And Mr. Chairman, I think that's all I had for upcoming issues.
That's a lot. That's good. All right. Thank you, Bob. Appreciate that. Thanks for filling in
Absolutely.
tonight.
My pleasure.
Neil's probably really enjoying that he's not here. So he's on vacation. So any other comments? Good to the group all around the table? All right. Looks like we've had a good, easy, full day, but thank you again. It's good to see everybody and having the participation. The expectation, I think, from all of us and certainly from me is that we are able to work through everything that we've got to work through together. And I think this is probably the start of a good working relationship with everybody. And I really do appreciate everybody's input. We are working on the MOU thing. Just a heads up to some of those, we may have some more people that cannot attend that meeting on the 29th. We'll let you know whether or not we have to push that back. And so that'll come out in another couple of days when I get the list. So other than that, I think we've had a great night. I'll look for a motion to adjourn. So move, second. All in favor? We're out of here. Thank you, everyone.